What's up guys, I'm BTC. Blizzard just let us know that a whole bunch of characters are about to get some buffs and possibly a rework or two. Over on the official forums, Blizzard gave us a lot of information about what characters are going to get buffed, nerfed, possibly redesigned, or just completely left alone. Now, if you're new to the channel, make sure you subscribe because anytime stuff like this changes, I'll be sure to tell you guys everything you need to know, so subscribe and hit that bell so you don't miss any of it. We're going to start with the characters that are confirmed to not get any changes, just to kind of cross them out. So the first one is Pharah. Jeff Kaplan had a really simple response. He simply says, "We feel like Pharah is in a good spot right now." And I kind of agree. I don't think there's anything wrong with the character. The problem was that we were in a dive-heavy meta, and Pharah just doesn't really work well with that. Even though Mercy was ridiculously popular, the Pharmacy combo just doesn't really do what it needs to do against the heavy dive. Now, unfortunately for Pharah, it doesn't really seem like it's going to get much better, because we're now moving into a more tank-heavy meta, and again, Pharah doesn't really do that good against that. And on top of that, of course, Mercy just got hit with a giant nerf, so even though the character itself is okay, I don't think you're really going to see it getting used all that much. Next up is Winston. Is he going to get any buffs? The answer is no. He says, "We feel like Winston's shield is extremely powerful. Winston uses his shield very differently than Reinhardt or Orisa, but we feel like it fits his kit well and is very strong. We're not currently thinking about any buffs for Winston." So I agree that Winston doesn't need any buffs, but he's wrong when he says the bubble is extremely powerful. It's the worst shield in the game. It's basically tissue paper. But it doesn't matter, because the character synergizes so well with Tracer, Diva, Genji, and Zenyatta that the bubble can be garbage and the character still works. Next up is Diva, also not going to be getting any nerfs. He just says we're always evaluating all the heroes. We don't have any Diva adjustments in the works. She gets played a lot and is very powerful, but she's not on our list currently. I think, again, this has to do with the fact that the dive meta was so incredibly powerful and it synergized so well. Characters like Diva, Winston, Tracer, Genji, they could all just kind of jump into the backline at the same time and they'd be incredibly effective together. But that's why that you see these characters with such a high pick rate. It's not that they're individually powerful, it's that the group together is incredibly powerful. And wrapping up the characters that will not be changed is going to be Mercy. I'm sure some people are going to be upset with this one. He says, "We have no plans to revert Mercy. We also feel like she's not in a horrible place or unplayable. It's still to be determined if she is exactly where she should be, because it has been too soon and the dust needs to settle. Her playtime in quick play and comp is still incredibly high. Her win rate is still above 50%, but more in line with what we'd expect. But I'd like to put the notion that Mercy is going to be reverted to rest. Also, we don't agree with the statement that all supports are weak. Support heroes are extremely powerful and impactful in Overwatch." Well, I certainly think that Symmetra would disagree with him on that. As far as how useful Mercy is going to be, I made a full video explaining all of that for the lower ranks on the ladder, the upper ranks, the pro scene, all that sort of stuff. The pros have basically stated that the character will be completely non-viable in the next stage of the Overwatch League. But if you want to check out all of that information on the Mercy changes, I'll put a link down below and on screen so you can go and check that out. Let's move on to the characters that are getting changed, because there's a bunch of them. So the heroes on the list are Mei, Sombra, Symmetra, Doomfist, Torbjorn, and Hanzo. We're trying different things for all of them. I know you want details, but I don't have them now. We're experimenting. Some will be ready sooner than others. I expect Mei, Sombra, and Doomfist first. Maybe Hanzo, depending on the direction we pick. So there's a lot of characters on this list. Let's run through them one at a time. Mei, I expect to get minor changes, maybe like an increase in damage, or maybe slightly modifying how fast people get frozen and that sort of deal. Honestly, I would like to see Mei get converted into a full tank character. I know that would require changing some of her abilities a little bit more drastically, but I think Mei is kind of wasted where she is now. It's kind of very much a niche character, and I think Mei has a lot of the kind of stuff that makes a tank. She just isn't quite there. Next up is Sombra. Blizzard has said on multiple occasions that they consider Sombra to be more of a utility support, even though she's in the offense category. So I really don't think they're going to increase her damage or anything. It's probably going to be stuff related to her ultimate or the hacking ability, that sort of stuff. Symmetra, I really don't know. I think this character needs a much better design than what she has already. They tried to do the shield gen thing. It just didn't really work. The problem with Symmetra, I think, is where do you put her in the lineup? Do you replace a healer? Do you replace a tank? Do you replace a DPS? There just isn't really a place to put her in a functioning lineup. And I think that's the main issue with the character. Next one is Doomfist. And Jeff Goodman, the principal designer for Overwatch, actually elaborated a little bit more on what they're going to get. He says, the change that is coming soon will help make his primary fire more consistent. We've increased the number of bullets that he fires, but lowered their individual damage. The net result is the same damage over time, but there shouldn't be as much variance from one shot to the next. Along the same lines, we've changed his spread pattern to help consistency as well. There's at least one more change that we're testing that won't hit until a little bit later, which you guys will see once we get closer to the next PTR. So what they're doing with this is they're making it so that you can be more accurate with Doomfist a little bit further away. So I'm going to show you a couple examples on the screen right here, and you can see that when you're using your primary fire with Doomfist, there's kind of a spread on it. So what that means is the further away you get, the more the pellets get spread out, and the less of them will actually hit the target. So they're making it so that there's going to be more pellets, so that way there's a better chance that at least some of those will continue to hit the target. But the cost is that each pellet will now do less damage. So this is kind of a buff and kind of a nerf at the same time. So it's a buff because it means you can now be further away and you have a chance to do a little bit more damage. But it's also a nerf because there's more pellets. And if you're going against any target that has armor, this means that you're going to do a decent amount of damage less than what you would have before. Basically, the way that armor works in the game is that every single little hit, every individual pellet, gets reduced by the armor. So when you have one attack that does a lot of damage, there's very little that gets reduced by armor. But when you have a lot of little stuff, that's when you have a pretty big advantage of the armor. So this means that Doomfist's left click will do less damage versus armor. Now here's the thing though, does this actually solve anything? Because Doomfist never really attacks anyone at medium or long range anyways. You're almost always pretty close to the target, in which case most of your pellets are going to hit almost all the time anyways. So it seems like they're changing a part of the character that doesn't actually need to be changed, but there's a much bigger problem in that Doomfist has a tremendous amount of bugs. I think it's over 20 bugs at this point, like all different kinds of stuff that interact with his rocket punch, his seismic, like all that stuff. There's just so many bugs with the character that giving Doomfist buffs at this point doesn't make a whole lot of sense until you can actually get those bugs fixed. Once you get the character working how it's supposed to work, then you can determine, okay, does this need to be increased or decreased or whatever it happens to be. But you gotta get the character actually working properly first. Next up is Torbjorn, and this is definitely a problematic character. Ever since the release of the game, Torbjorn has been generally considered too strong in the lower brackets and just absolutely garbage, completely worthless in the upper brackets, especially in the pro scene. Now, Jeff Kaplan did give a little more information. He said Torb is on the list, but no changes on the next PTR. He's going to take some time to do what we want to do. It sounds like they're looking at a redesign of the character, a rework. I don't know how much they're going to do, if it's going to be like super drastic or whatever, but they are definitely doing something more significant than just, you know, increasing the damage or changing his health or that sort of stuff. I think they're going to be changing some of his abilities. Now, I have some really good ideas on how they can fix the Torbjorn problem, but that is just way too big of a topic to get into in this video, so make sure you subscribe because that video should be coming out pretty soon. And the last character on the list that they're looking at changing, buffing, slight redesign, that sort of stuff, is going to be Hanzo. So Blizzard is mostly looking at making changes to Scatter Arrow or completely removing and replacing it altogether. Now, some people have suggested other damaging abilities, but that's not going to fix anything because Scatter Arrow is already the best damaging ability in the game. And if it's not good enough to put Hanzo in a viable position, then changing it for another damage ability is also not going to fix anything. I think what they need to do is they need to give Hanzo a little bit more sustainability, maybe give him some sort of CC or something, crowd control basically, something. I've talked about this at length in other videos. Again, I'll put those down below so you can check that out, but I wouldn't be surprised to see Scatter Arrow getting removed entirely. So those are all the changes, guys. There was a lot of them. Again, if you want more information on the Mercy or the Hanzo stuff, there'll be links down below. And make sure you subscribe because I'm going to have that Torbjorn video out pretty soon. So let me know what you think about all of those changes that they're talking about down in the comments. Also, don't forget to check out my Discord server. Follow me on Twitter, Instagram, all that stuff. The links are below. Thanks for watching. Remember, always blame the controller because it's never your fault. Also, special thanks to all my Patreon supporters for helping to make this all possible. If you'd like to see what kind of cool rewards you can get for supporting the channel, check the links on screen and down below.